Welcome back, YouTube. It's Justin from Parity InfoSec back again to take a look at Adminer, the newest retirement on HackTheBox. This box is marked as an easy. So you see there it's green and it's a Linux box, but it really wasn't the easiest box I've seen just because it was CTF-y. You got to find things, and that's all through web enumeration, fuzzing, kind of looking at the web directories, seeing what you can see, and then trying to see what you can see inside of that. So we're going to use a little bit of Gobuster and try and enumerate forbidden directory. We'll find some information, some credentials in there, and then we're going to turn around and reuse those credentials, get some stuff on an FTP server, pull it down. We're going to do some PHP code review. Look at some of the code, figure out how it works, and then it's going to kind of lead us to the file disclosure vulnerability you're going to find in the application adminer. So using that adminer exploit, we're going to launch our own Maria database, or you can use any kind of MySQL database. Pull a little trick on the web server, reach back to your MySQL database while allowing local file disclosure from the server. So it's a little bit of a tricky trick. After that, you're just going to get your shell, hopefully. We'll pop our shell by using that local file disclosure based on some of the other information we had from the FTP data that we download. You're going to be able to reach back and find some database credentials, which are ultimately those credentials to log into the box. So we're going to SSH into the box after that. And with that, we'll be able to look at some of the admin tasks shell that's running and try and find ways to exploit that. Ultimately, you're going to end up with a PYTHONPATH Hijack, but it's slightly different than the ones I'm used to because you're going to be using sudo. It's going to throw off how you do your PYTHONPATH exploit. It's a great box, a lot of fun, so let's get started. All right, as always, we'll start with an Nmap. So Nmap 10.10.10.187 with this box. I love VV. Should go pretty fast, but we'll do a T5 and we'll just let it run at that point. So initially we're going to see that there's an FTP server, there's SSH access, and then there's a port 80 HTTP. So let's get started taking a look at the website. We're going to see that the name is Admirer, matches the box. Admirer of skills and visuals. There's a little bit of an about here. Minor little script. Go ahead and blow this up. Maximize this. So it's got some pictures here, a little bit of information, but not a whole lot. So we'll start with view source and just go down through it. Admire, you're going to see something interesting here where you're going to look at where the source is. It's image thumbs, image full. So you're going to know where some of the files are located at. Nothing great. You're going to see still under development. This does not send anything yet, but it looks nice. So the post actually doesn't do anything. We're not going to worry about that too much. Let's go ahead and take this to the robots full file. So robots is going to tell you what's disallowed on this web server. And in this case, this folder contains personal contacts and cred. So no one, not even robots, can see it. And you get a name, Waldo. So Waldo kind of gives us a username and then a directory, the admin-dir. So let's see what we can find there. Admin-dir is forbidden. But let's go ahead and start a folder. We'll start by going into our HackTheBox directory. I'm going to make dir admirer. This is where we're going to hang out. So let's just do nano users. We're going to say Waldo. Now, this robots file, if we go back, it's going to say it has contacts and creds. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can web fuzz, or you can try and just shoot in the dark. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit of Gobuster and see what we can find, because I think it's going to be the easiest in this case. But Gobuster, we're going to do a dir U, and then we're going to specify just because it's easier, HTTP 10.10.10.187, and we're going to say look in admin-dir. Well, just because it's forbidden doesn't mean we can't look inside of it. It just means it's not going to give us a directory listing. So we're going to go ahead and try that. We'll do a W and give it a word list. I think for this one, I really want to use Raft. So in my OPSEC lists, discovery, web content, Raft, we'll go with large words. And that should be good. .text. I've come to embrace some of these Gobuster techniques, and one of them is to limit your status codes. So with the DAC S, you can say, just give me 200, give me 301, 302. There's a lot of 404, 403, a lot of stuff you can get, but these ones really tell you redirect. They're going to tell you what's forbidden. They're going to tell you what's there. So it confirms. More than anything else, it confirms there's something there, whether you can read it, whether you can't, however it works. It's always a nice one to try. So we'll go ahead and Gobuster. And then I also want to do X. So we're going to say TXT, we're going to say PHP, because we know there's potential to run PHP, and we know that text is always a good one to look for. You can add HTML, but for this one, I'm just going to limit it to those two. So we'll go ahead and let that run. And we came up with contacts.txt. Now you see it says personal contacts. So in all honesty, this one's probably going to be something related to creds, credentials, whatever it is. But let's go ahead and look at contacts. So contacts.txt. Oh, I forgot to add admin-dir here. All right. So you're going to see it's Penny, P-Wise, Rajesh, Amy, Leonard, Howard, Bernadette. This one was kind of a funny one because it's a little bit of a tribute to Big Bang Theory. If you're on here, you should, hopefully you know it. If you don't, go check it out. While this runs in the background, I'll just start another terminal window, and I will go back into that users and start adding some names. So Waldo, Penny, Rajesh, and you can really run this also with email addresses, and you try and parse it really quickly, but I'm just going to add these in for the sake of doing some checks later on. Bernadette. All right. So we'll go ahead and close that out. Come back over to this window. Still nothing found. Usually I run it with a lot more threads. That's kind of my bad. Let's just do a T200. Let's see if that helps a little bit. What was that 7% there? We'll go ahead and try creds. All right, when you get this, sometimes you just hit it too much. I've been doing timeouts. So timeout is normally 10 seconds. You can just say 30 seconds. Gives a little bit of more opportunity. You can go a lot faster, and if you hit a hiccup from your internet service provider, things like that, you'll be able to handle it. But over here, we're going to try creds.txt. Oh, creds doesn't exist, but you'll see here credentials just popped up. So let's go ahead and try credentials. We know that exists. All right, credentials actually gets us an internal mail account, an FTP account, and a WordPress account. And we'll go ahead and add those to our list. So I'm going to say w.cooper. I really don't want to put the whole thing in there. FTP user. And we'll try that one next. And then just admin. And then I also want to do nano pass. And I want to start adding these in here. So I'll just come over here. We'll do a copy, paste. These are really thorough passwords. They were not going to be something we were going to track down. So don't even try. And then sometimes for this, I really like to use MSFConsole. And it's not that we need it, it's just that it's something you should kind of get used to if you're going to operate and do pen test. It can hold things in its database. It can do data retention for logins, things like that. In this case, I won't be doing that. You're going to see you've got to set some of the framework up. But I just want to search for FTP. I mean, it's going to be a little bit harder to look for it that way, but we want the FTP login scanner. So here's our auxiliaries scanner. And there should just be a normal FTP login one. This is not my favorite view. There we go. FTP login. There it is. All right, so use 26. And then we'll just do show options. I'm going to set the pass file to that directory that we've been storing everything in, HTTP. All right. Because I'm under the sudo, I'm running as root, it doesn't know home directory so well, so we'll just put that in, HTTP, and we're going to say adminer, and then we're going to say pass. We're going to do the same thing for user, set user file, home parity, HTTP, admire users. All right. Set our hosts at 10.10.10.187. We are doing this against the FTP. We knew it existed. So as long as our host, our port, username, pass are all there, let's go ahead and exploit it or run if you so choose. This is a pretty simple one. It's going a little bit beyond because the first thing you should really do is just take that FTP user and the password for FTP user and try that out. It's super basic, but I always like to show this is how I set up when you're doing box after box after box. If you're doing a domain, you want to try and set a standard of how you're going to look at the entire network, all the boxes, and not just think kind of narrow-minded about one box. So FTP user should be coming up soon. And we got a successful login. And that's what we expected. This was going to be the one. So we'll go into this. I'm going to cat the pass because I want to copy this password. All right, so we're going to say FTP 10.10.10.187. Our name is going to be FTP user. We'll paste that password in there. And we are in. So if we do an ls, we're going to see there's a SQL dump. And there is an html.tar.gz. So we're going to need to pull both those files down. As you can see, I'm already sitting in kind of my main admirer directory. So this is how I'll do it. I don't need to really worry about recursive. I like to set recursive, but we're also going to do set prompt. Or in this case, we're going to say prompt. And prompt just says, don't ask me every time, just download everything. So if I say mget, which is multiple get, hit it, it's going to download everything. If I have interactive on, it's going to say, do you want to get this file? Yes. Do you want to get this file? Super annoying. If you're trying to dump a directory on a server, the best way is to say prompt, recursive, mget star, and it will get everything. That's the way to really dump a server. Now that we're in, we're going to exit right back out. So we've got a couple of our files here. I want to do, just do more on the dump. And let's go page by page, just take a look at it, and you're going to see this is a MySQL dump. It's running Maria. The local host is where it came from, and it was from AdmireDB. Okay. Going down, this is just going to be kind of the information. You're going to see insert into items. Here's the thumb art. This is the information that's on the main page. So it all comes from a MySQL database. Here's some of that information. the caption information. So that just kind of tells you a little bit about the database. So later on, we're going to go after that MySQL database and take advantage of it a little bit. But for right now, it's not really telling us a whole much. What we want to do is start looking at what is inside of the GZ file. So we're going to need to extract it. The best way to do that is to make a directory. And in this case, I'm going to say HTML. Just going to make one called HTML. We're going to say tar, and then we're going to extract, and we're going to give it the file, which is GZ, and we're going to tell it right there, tar.gz. If you want to extract it to that directory we just made, capital C, and just say HTML. So now we'll see that HTML directory, go inside of it. And that's all that information. So if we cat robots, this one's a little bit different. This one says Waldo's secret directory. Okay. What if we cat index? So it's going to be, okay, there's a password here. It's a strange password because it's actually got a quote in it, followed by D6B. But it's saying this is the database password. So we'll go ahead and grab this. We'll copy that, take it back over here. Actually, I need to start a new one. So nano pass. I'll just paste that in just to hang on to for right now. So this is the original or the backup of the website that we're looking at. Adminer, it's the visual arts, all that sort of information. Let's see what's inside of it. So there's a directory called Waldo's secret directory, and it's got contacts and credentials. So we're going to cat contacts. We're going to see it's got Penny, Rajesh, Amy, Leonard, Howard, Bernadette. It's all the same. We're going to cat credentials, and this one has, well, okay, this has a different account. It's got a bank account as well. So Waldo.11 with this password. And we're going to see W. Cooper, FTP user, admin. So we got a little bit more information here. This is a back and forth battle that I had just because there's a lot of information to be enumerated here. So we'll add this to our list. And this is just keeping all your information in case you need to go back to it. So it's a good habit to get into. Come over here and, oh, don't want to do that one. We'll put this down at the end. All right, so Waldo 11 was a new one. Come back over here. What else do we got? Okay, let's go back. There's a utility scripts directory. Inside of that, there's a dbadmin. That's my favorite. So cat dbadmin.php. I'll say more. It shouldn't be that long, but we'll go ahead. Yeah, super short. So there's Waldo, and then there's this new password called where is Waldo? All right, just finding tons of stuff. Save that. So finish implementing this, find better open source alternatives. So this is your database admin. This is the file that's going to be pulled in telling them how to log into localhost. All right, so there's a PHP test, info.php, dbadmin.php, and admin-tasks.php. Let's get admin tasks. So this one is a web interface to the admin task script. So it's going to reference a script. It's going to give you options 1 through 7. 1 through 7 are listed here. System uptime, logged in users, backup the password file, not working, backup the shadow, not working, backup the web data, and then backup the database. Currently not working because they need root privileges, so that's a good place to start looking. I'm leaving them in the valid tasks in case I figure out a way to securely run code as root from a PHP web page, PHP page. All right, so that's good, and we're going to want to look at that a little bit later. And then it's just going to echo do a new line, a break, and then it's going to do shell execution, and it's going to run ops scripts admin_task.sh, and then it's going to take the task variable provided to it, 1 through 7, and then all error is going to be cat to the same window. So that's a great way to look at this, but it does leave me wondering if it's available. So let's go ahead and say, you know what? Let's try utility scripts. If it was there, maybe it's over here. Oh, it's forbidden, so it is there. Let's try admin-tasks.php. Paste that in. There we go. And there it is. Oh, and there's 1 through 3. View cron tab, and it's showing you our www data. View logged in users. Nobody's logged in right now. Use system uptime, 22 hours, 50 minutes. All right. So you do have this file, but you're limited on values 4, 5, 6, and 7. One question would be, can you undisable this? So can you intercept it and mess with it? I got my burp open. So let's take a look at burp. We'll go down to the newest thing. We're going to see on post there's a task, so let's send this through the repeater and see what happens if we say back up the website. Send. It does come back and say insufficient privileges to perform the operation. So I'm not going to be able to do that from the web interface. But kind of an interesting little website. What else was in this folder? Info and PHP test. So let's try info.php. So there we go. Linux admirer. It's running Debian. Got some information here about the server. Zend engine. adminer.htb. So if you want to go ahead and put this into your Etsy host file, you can. In this, I don't think I ever needed to, but you can definitely use this kind of information if you're working against a different system that's a little bit more specific or has any kind of restrictions on what site you're going to, virtual host, things like that. All right. So tons of great information. And that's where you get that this location is actually running from var www.html/utility scripts. So that gives you an idea of where you're at in the structure. If you're saying /utility scripts info.php, we're sitting right here at var www.html. So it does confirm we're in a Linux box, and it tells you where you're sitting, what's your root HTML directory. Now this is also where it kicks back into a little CTF-y. So we went ahead and did user enumeration on that section. We found contacts credentials. We really need to go back and we need to take a look at the utility scripts. To get any further, you need to identify kind of what else is in there. So we found info.php. We're gonna find the same information we found over here. We're gonna find dbadmin. We're gonna find PHP test. dbadmin we're not gonna have access to. We're gonna find admin-tasks.php. Now we never did go to PHP test. So let's just go take a look at that real quick while it's running in the background. And all it does is say, just to test to see if PHP works. So we know PHP is running in the background. So as we start to run that new Gobuster, it just confirms that we should be running, looking for extensions TXT and PHP. So let's take a look, because I know something popped up. So we have a new one here, adminer.php. Let's take a look. This big. Took a little bit of a minute, but we got adminer and it's giving us a login page. So we can try and let's go back and look at our login information for the database. All right. So we've got this information. We can try this. So grab this information. And it's going to be MariaDB and Waldo. There we go. Waldo. Paste that in. And MariaDB. And it's going to say denied. We can try and run a bunch of passwords against this, but it's really not what you're trying to do. You see a little red pop up here, 4.7.7. So there's definitely different versions. If you look here, it's going to tell you to go to the adminer.org for the download of 4.7.7. I want to see more about 4.6.2. So let's see if we just do exploit DB. So it's like, let me search. And let's just say adminer 4.6.2. So pretty basic technique. And got a lot of PHP. But here's adminer 4.6.2 file disclosure vulnerability. So versions up to and including 4.6.2 supported the use of SQL statement load data in file. So this is a SQL technique to be able to pull local information into a SQL database. So loading a file from the local directory, dropping it in, and this is it was implemented to allow you to bring in mass amounts of data and import it directly into a database. In this case, you can access most, if not all, so it's something that we need to take a look at. There's a couple little write-ups on this, so we'll go ahead and open several of them. I don't want to look at that one. I'll open these two. So this one's a pretty good write-up. I like this one, and it kind of drove the whole conversation. It just explains, you're going to hit this, but then with this technique, the adminer is going to connect to so you need to set up your own database. But when you do that, it's going to connect to yours, but it's still going to be this computer allowing local in-file access. So it tells you you're going to set up a test, and then you're going to load this information into test, and then you're going to be able to see it. So that's really the direction I want to head on this one. I have had great success with this. So let's take a look. And we'll just say sudo mysql. And it lets us automatically in because of the way we've got it configured. We allow guest access. That way we can just use it to trick and look at some of the stuff. So show databases. And I already have a test in there. So we'll go ahead and go in here and just do a SQL drop statement. And we'll start from scratch just to make it easier. Drop database, and then we'll just say test. All right. So show database again, no information there. So our database is all set up to exploit. So let's see if we can log into adminer. We know that the database is running, and we'll just do an IPA. Make sure it's 10.10.14.26. 10.10.14.26. So back to the adminer. We'll just go ahead and say 10.10.14.26. Oops. We're going to say root, and then the password I set up for the database, I'll leave that blank. So it lets us in. So we're able to log in. This is my Maria database instance using the adminer locally, and it gives me this kind of information. First thing I want to do is create a database. Say test. I don't care about that information. And then we'll create a table. And this one we have to create, we'll call the table test. Don't care about that information or that information. I just want to say the column's name is test, and I want it to be long text. I want it to be able to take in a lot of information into that column. and it saved it. All right. So now we've kind of built that exfil database, for lack of a better term. Let's see if we can bring some information in. We'll go to the SQL command window. And using the information from this, it's going to tell us we want to run this command. So load the information in. We're going to load it into table test, column test, and then terminate each field on the new line character. So we'll go back here. We'll just drop this in and see if we can get Etsy password. So open base-dir restriction in effect. I am unable to open that file. So it's just not going to let me out. Let's see what we've got in the local directory. So we'll say index.php. Cannot find file index.php. Now we should be sitting inside of utility script. So what if I do a .. All right, it pulled in 123 rows. If I hit edit, it should be, nope. All right, so let's just go ahead and go take a look at our table. Select data, and it'll select all data. So if you see here, here's our index. It's going to say here's adminer. So we were able to load this PHP file in here. Right out of the gates, we're going to find server name, username, password. And this is going to be the information for the MariaDB password that is running on adminer. I want to copy this, and I'm going to come back over here. This was the one. So nano pass. Let me drop this in because I don't think that's one that we've had before. So I want to try something here and just do a search SSH. If I type it in twice, it's not going to work so well. So we'll just look for an SSH login. There it is. So use 19. I want to do the same thing. So set pass file to home HTTP admirer pass. We're going to set username to Waldo. Keep seeing that one. Seems pretty obvious. So let's see if that gets us anywhere. Set rhost 1010. My apologies. 10.10.10.187. Show options again. Everything looks good. Let's see what happens if we exploit. We'll just see if we have the right password to just SSH in, and we can kind of get around playing in this database. Not sure why it was hanging there, and that got me no information. Very strange indeed. Let's say set for both to true. That way I just see everything as it's happening. I prefer it that way. So failed, 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 failed. I'm missing one. I didn't save it. Haha. So let's try that one more time. I was wondering what was up there. So we did get one positive. So it was able to log in, user Waldo, and it's actually opened a command shell for us. It's just default in Metasploit. It's kind of a nice feature. It's not my preferred way, but I want to go ahead and just mess with it and say sessions. It's there, so sessions, tag I, we're going to interface with 1. ID, it's showing us there. It's not the way I want to do this, so I'm just going to go ahead and say exit, close that out, and we'll go ahead and SSH in. Let's make sure that we copy this password. So right now we've already got kind of a user leg in. We'll go ahead and go back here. Control L, SSH. We're going to SSH in as Waldo at 10.10.10.187. Give it the password, and now we've got Waldo. We're sitting in the home directory. Sure enough, cat user text. Got user. Perfect. Great, right? So this one, a little bit of enumeration to get there, play around using the exploit from MariaDB to be able to load in files from the directories. So we got that, we got our loot. The next step is really getting beyond this. So let's see what we can do with sudo L. Sudo L. Give it the password again. All right. So it is saying that we can run as the root. It's saying we're in group set env opt scripts admin_text.sh. That's that admin tasks that we were looking at before. So let's see if we can cat it. And here's our shell. It's bin bash. It's going to kind of define the uptime, the users, the cron tab. It's going to put everything in as complete paths. Okay, backup password, copy password, password.back, change owner to root, chmod to 600, so block it from anybody else. Same thing with shadow, backup web, make sure it's root, and then it's going to run a backup.py, so that's a Python. This last one is a user bin, a sql.dump. So this one looks the most interesting because it is going to run a Python. So one of the things that is interesting to know about the set env is that it allows you to set environmental variables. Some of those environmental variables would include things like the Python path. A lot of times when you do a Python path hijack, you will just go in and export Python path, add in where you want to put something, and that would work. This one's a little bit trickier because you're running as sudo. So when you do sudo, it's not going to allow you to look at the environmental variables from the account that you set them at. So it's kind of weird. It's going to take you out of that, put you into the environmental variables for the root. But we do have a way of doing it inside the Python command. So I really want to play with this. Let's see if we can run this one for starters. So let's sudo this. Sudo this.sh. So it's going to give us options. We say 1. Okay. Do it again, 2. Do it again, 3. So there's our crons. Do it again, 4. It's going to say it's backing up. There's nothing we can really do about that. 5, same thing. 6, running backup in the background. Might take a while. I doubt it's going to take that long. Do a psaux. You're not really going to see anything popping up. No. But it is running Python. So kind of discussing that, we're going to need to take a look at that file it's running. So if you take a look at this again, we're going to be looking at opt scripts backup.py. Go back over here, put the slash in. So it's going to run Python 3, and then from shutil, it's going to import make archive. It's going to say this is the source, and then this is the destination, and then make the archive. So when you do a Python path hijack, you got to provide it the same kind of information so that when it goes to run it, it's going to say from the beginning, from shutil, you're going to look for this make archive and you're going to import it in here. So it's going to load it into memory. That is where you want to do your hijack. So we need to make a shutil.py with a module inside called make archive so that it will load it. But when it loads it, it's going to run. And that's the point where you can run any code you want to run. All this down here does not matter. None of this is going to run necessarily, because what we're going to try and do is run a reverse shell when it runs that command. So let's try and make our own. Honestly, we're sitting in an SSH, so that's pretty stable. We'll just do a cd dev shm. Make sure nothing's in there. We'll go ahead and do a nano shutil.py. This is where it's going to look for that information, and we'll start off with user bin python3, and we'll just define our module. So make archive, so define make archive, and here you can put in any kind of one-liner that you're familiar with, any basic one-liner. Because we're going to be running it here, you can just do an upgrade shell, or you can do a reverse shell. I did a reverse shell, but I think right now I want to try and just do a standard upgraded shell and see if it'll work, since we are going to be doing a sudo command on this one. So let me just grab a simple reverse shell. Let's go over here and just do Python reverse, not a reverse, but one-liner shell. And just go to Pentest Monkey. Getting a lot of weird stuff from Pentest Monkey lately. I'm not sure what's going on with their website. Harmful software, ignore the risk. I have kind of made my own personal copy of this just in case the site goes down, things like that. I think I'm going to go back to the way I originally did it. If you just go ahead and search for make archive, reverse shell, there is one put out by Rostating. And if you go down here, it's kind of a plug and play easy one right here. And it does the same thing, import OS, pty, socket, but the way that it runs the zip, and it's going off to the same thing, backup.py. And it's going to say define zip-dir, run this, yada, 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 yada. And just paste this in. Make sure you come up here, change that information. .443. Okay, so X, yes. Make sure that we set this back up for 443. Try that again. And we've got root. So it's an oddity of which way you go, how you put the information in there. If you just run it as one file, it's going to come looking for make archive. And this one just happened to have a class, make archive, zip deflated, and it runs through all the commands, even though the class doesn't really use them. So it's kind of a quirk. So if I say ID, you're going to say root. Just say go to root, ls cat root.txt. And we got it. So that is adminer. A little bit tricky, but nothing really significant. So again, there was a lot of web enumeration, a little bit of credential reuse, a lot of passwords found, but the information progressed pretty well from HTTP to FTP back to using that PHP source code review to get back to adminer and the file disclosure exploit, getting that by using the local MariaDB, and pivoting that into a local file disclosure and pulling up that information so that we could SSH in. Get that user, and then just a quick Python path hijack and being able to redirect the libraries that we're looking at allowed us to get root. So I would like to throw out a thank you to the box creators, Polar Bearer and Give Paradox. Great box. A little bit of information there. Very frustrating for folks that don't like to do enumeration or CTF type boxes, but pretty good skills, especially with the Python path hijack. I love that one. Always keep that in your playbook. All right. So this is Justin from Parity InfoSec. Thank you again for joining me, and we'll see you again next week.